everybody, and welcome back to the Broadway Jets YouTube channel. You'll know me from Twitter as NYJ Mike, and I'm joined as always by the master of receipts, NYJ Matt. And Matt, it looks like Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, the McAfee show was great. The setup, the delivery, everything was perfect.
Yeah.
At first, when he started doing the whole rundown of when he went in the darkness retreat, he wanted to retire, came out, heard the Packers wanted to move off him,
Very scary.
didn't give him the heads up. Going into the darkness retreat, we thought we had a pretty good chance of getting him. Hearing that 90%, pretty terrifying in hindsight, but he comes out, says, fuck you guys, I'm going to be a New York Jet. And when he said, my intention is to play for the New York Jets and the only holdup is compensation, euphoria at the highest level. Unbelievable, Mike.
Yeah, and look, the thing is that nothing is better than seeing the Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport tweet. The New York Jets trade a 2023 second-round pick for quarterback Aaron Rodgers, blah, blah. And that still has not happened yet. And 99.9999999% chance he's on the Jets. And he's on the Jets. He's on the Jets. It's not the problem. It just is interesting that we never got to really have that moment during this whole saga.
I would argue it's better the way we got it when he does become a Jet, because 250,000, 250,000 people, maybe 4 MetLife stadiums are watching this guy tell the world he's going to be a New York Jet.
Yeah.
Like, everything becomes easier. You are immediately a Super Bowl contender with that.
We're a Super Bowl contender. We are right now a Super Bowl contender.
And the way it went about with the Hackett hire, bringing in free agents that he wants, right? Bring in Lazard, which they knew on Friday he was going to be a Jet. But everything the Jets did, they did it the right way. No leaks at all from Joe Douglas. So great on the front office. And just, you could tell he was happy too. You could tell he's like, this is a revenge tour.
He's hell bent on revenge.
I want to kill everyone and just
I've seen
win
John Wick. Games. It's a good thing. Dude, it's like, man, like a motivated, I'm sorry, a motivated Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Jets. He's won 2 of the last 3 NFL MVPs. He's coming to a team that has studs. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, AVT, Skinny Becton. Go get Alan Lazard. Bring back Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah. Like, what are we talking about? This is our team. What the fuck?
It is the greatest single moment outside of a playoff win in the past 15 years, bar none. It is that big of a deal. It's that big of a deal. Now, the news breaks. Everyone's hype. One thing before, we talked a lot about Rodgers in the past few episodes, and hey, I think we just hit 500 subscribers. So thank you for being a part of the program. If you are here, don't forget to subscribe.
Appreciate that.
The only thing that is going to be a debate is the number. And I could go either way. And
the compensation. It's a big deal, the compensation.
100%. I think the compensation is going to end up being a 2023 2 and a 2023 pick that if they make the playoffs, it could become a 2. If they will go to the Super Bowl, it could become a 1. So there'll be structures in there. And I think there will be a player swap as well.
Sure. Is it true? Is it true that the Jets cannot trade a pick in this year's draft for Aaron Rodgers because this trade has to happen in the new year? In the 2023 draft, I heard that and I thought it was false.
There are so many things that have been coming out about, like, you can't trade him until June 1st, March 17th. Like, I don't know what is true.
I don't think it makes sense. You have to be able to trade a pick in this year's draft for the guy.
Yeah. So compensation side, we'll figure that piece out. The number. Originally, my take is just wear a different number. Don't do the whole Namath unretire, because in a terrible scenario, which cross my fingers will never happen, if Rodgers doesn't pan out well on the Jets, you don't want, we unretired a number. I would have him get a new number. But there's a huge part of me that thinks if he unretires that number and breaks some type of curse that Joe Namath put on this franchise 50 years ago, that'd be a hell of a way to do it. To unretire that number, take it back, win the Super Bowl. Mike, I'm fine either way now. I will not be hurt if he wears 12, if he wears any number.
The good thing is if he wears 12, Joe Namath comes out and says, you can wear 12.
So he already did. Right.
Right, which he did. There's no controversy.
Right.
Now, I mean, if he breaks any records, if he wins, I mean, these things, look, we're talking about a top 5 player in NFL history. This is not a mediocre quarterback.
Top 5 talent.
You can make the argument right now, at this current moment, a top 5 quarterback in NFL history. He is at this moment. Debatable. I put out a tweet a few weeks ago. I said during this whole saga, which is for multiple weeks, top 5 quarterbacks in NFL history: Brady, Montana. I had Aaron Rodgers. I had Dan Marino, and I had who the fuck did I have? Maybe Johnny Unitas.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning was there. It was not Johnny Unitas. Mahomes is going to be in that list at some point just for more longevity. He already has 2 Super Bowls, 2 MVPs. But you're looking at Aaron Rodgers with 4 MVPs, a Super Bowl MVP, and he got fucking dicked in his playoff losses. He has a couple of bad losses to the 49ers in the playoffs. He lost 13-10 a couple years ago. He's had some weird losses. But in the Packers' 4 NFC Championship game losses, the Packers allowed 35 points a game. 35 points a game. How do you get to the Super Bowl and your team is allowing 35 points a game in the conference championship? And then the only time they didn't allow 35 points was 2016, and Brandon Bostic dropped the onside kick, and they would have just went to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is a top athlete of all time. Not even in football. He's our quarterback.
It's unbelievable. Again, top moment you could ever have. You just hope it goes through easy. They can keep their 1 this year. They build the offensive line, do everything right.
Yeah. Well, and look, the Jets are in a good spot. So we've talked about this a lot during the offseason. The Jets roster is mostly built, right? You'd think you need a center, you need a safety, maybe another linebacker, another receiver. But really, you literally need a center and a safety. Those are the 2 actual needs. You solved the biggest position of need with one of the best players in the history of sports.
It's ridiculous. It really is unbelievable. And you brought up some positions, and if you were to tell me the least important position out of the starting 12, which all of them are important, they can find a safety, a veteran to fill that role and keep the defense afloat. Center, you want to figure out. There is Ben Jones still out there. But, Mike, outside of Rodgers, a few other news did happen today. Sheldon Rankins goes to the Texans on a 1-year, $10.5 million deal.
Yeah, Nathan Shepard. A lot of money for Sheldon.
Nathan Shepard gets a 3-year deal with the Saints. And then Jeff Smith becomes a New York Giant. So 3 departures from the Jets, and 2 of them on the interior defensive line. A position of need, I think a day 2 draft pick, most definitely. And they did bring back Solomon Thomas, Mike, who Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate.
Good.
A lot of people thought it was a little too much money, but that's with incentives as well. So you're bringing back a locker room guy at a position of need when a lot of guys went off the board.
Yeah, look, if Sheldon Rankins gets $10.5 million and you bring back a terrific human being and a solid rotational defensive tackle in Solomon Thomas who fits the system, the Jets are clearly not playing this system where you're going to have multiple high 300 pounds defensive line playing nose tackle, which might help the run game, which we've been kind of clamoring for, but doesn't seem like they're going to do that. You bring back that guy, that's fine. Now, what do you do, Matt, with pick 13, and what do you do with the rest of free agency?
We talked about center, bringing in Ben Jones, a guy that is beloved by Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans, has chemistry with Carter, the new Jets O-line coach. So you bring him in, you shore up the offensive line, which is good. The interesting piece that we'll talk about a lot over the next couple of weeks is the Jets were in on 2 prize free agents. Fletcher Cox, which would fill that need on the interior defensive line.
Yeah, this is super interesting. Yeah.
More money than the Eagles went back.
Yeah, less money than Sheldon Rankins it was very strange. Yeah.
Very odd. And then Orlando Brown. The Jets were in on him. What you think of the offensive tackles the Jets have? Look at Dwayne Brown. Look at Mekhi Becton, Max Mitchell. AVT can be thrown in that category of a guy who could be a starter at offensive tackle if you want to move him from guard. If they're that in on Orlando Brown for a big contract, very fascinating of what is in the future for them of wanting to improve both offensive line and interior defensive line. I think you'll look 13th and the second round in both those positions.
It makes you think a couple of things. You just kind of hit on it a little bit where if you're going to dish out a big contract, which seems like the Jets are ready to do, they want to make a splash, which I like. And again, one of the reasons I like that is because the Jets roster has been built in a way where mostly everything is set to this point. You have your offensive line, you have 4 of your 5 starters, unless you want to do something different. Mm-hmm. You have Dwayne Brown, Lakin, AVT, Becton. You have your running backs. You have Brees. You have Michael Carter. You have Zonovan Knight. You could make a move. You could do something. You have receivers. You have Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Tyler Conklin, Uzama Rucker. So your offense is basically set. You could add a receiver. You have your defensive line. You have Quinnen and JFM and Carl Lawson, blah, blah, blah. CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams. You have the corners. You have Chuck Clark as the safety. So if the Jets seem like they're wanting to make a splash, which is interesting. And then the other thing that it poses a question to is, what's the situation with Dwayne Brown is where I'm looking at it from. I'm penciling Mekhi Becton as my starting right tackle in 2023. Mm-hmm. If Dwayne Brown's insurance for that, that's fine. I'd be hard-pressed to say the Jets are going to sign Orlando Brown and then bench Mekhi Becton. Yeah, it's not – I don't think that's where they're going. I think it's more of a Dwayne Brown kind of situation. So I'm super curious to see what they do. I don't know if the Jets expected Dwayne Brown to be back. Solid made some comments that they're excited to have him back.
That's and he's been in the weight room at Florham Park. So if you're rehabbing at Florham Park, you're assuming he's going to play.
Right.
The reason why you have to make a big splash, and we can end it here because I know it's getting late.
I'll stay all night, baby. Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. Come on.
The reason the Jets have to make one of those splash moves, they're going after Fletcher Cox. They're going after Orlando Brown. You might see them tap into the OBJ market or any of these bigger guys out there. The reason they have to do it is once they land Aaron Rodgers, you need to throw everything you can into this year to make the playoffs. If the Jets make the playoffs, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh will, at a minimum, gain themselves 2 years of stability with this team. Think about the Jets making the playoffs this year and maybe an unfortunate divisional round exit, hypothetically. Douglas and Saleh will be here in 2024 and in 2025. If the Jets don't make the playoffs this year and things go awry, both those guys could be on the chopping block, and that is why you need to bring in these veterans at higher cost to do everything you can to win 10 to 11 games and find yourself at the playoff table. That's the end goal.
Yes, you're all in. We're paying Aaron Rodgers $15 million this year. It's nothing in relative terms.
That costs, that's MetLife beer sales. On a given Sunday.
There are 2 things before we go. I want to discuss 2 things. One, expectations for 2023 are going to be interesting because the Jets haven't made the playoffs for 12 years. Now you have crazy expectations. You have Pro Football Focus's #1 defense last year. You bring in the quarterback who was 2 of the last 3 MVPs of the league, et cetera, et cetera. The Jets are going to have very high expectations. If you lose a divisional round game, is it bad? Is it good? Blah, blah. We got to discuss. And number 2, I'm so surprised more NFL teams are not talking about this. The Jets are looking at Odell Beckham. It's been reported. I much rather have DeAndre Hopkins. Why are more teams not talking about DeAndre Hopkins? 2 things. I'm curious to hear your take.
Take 1, expectations definitely change when you're a team that has a playoff drought, which will be the longest in professional sports when the Kings make the playoffs in the NBA this year.
And the Mariners made the playoffs last year. Yeah, exactly.
You make the playoffs.
I'm not talking about fucking baseball either, with Edwin Diaz broke his leg.
We don't talk about baseball. We don't talk about tonight.
Got caught off in a wheelchair because he pitched in the World Baseball Classic. But anyway,
you see how he got hurt? He was celebrating.
Yeah, it's insane.
Okay, time out. We're not talking about it.
Catcher tackled him.
When it comes to the expectations, very high. You got to make the playoffs. Everything after that, we will get to when we get to. Also, look at the schedule in 2023. This past year, with backups, there was even games with backups where we didn't think we had the quarterback advantage. With Zach Wilson, with Joe Flacco, against a guy like Skylar Thompson, against Teddy Bridgewater. You look at even Jacoby Brissett, a veteran starter. It just never felt like we had the advantage. Going into next year, every single game, no matter who we play, we can beat them with our quarterback.
You have Aaron Rodgers, man. What
unbelievable. The second question, what was it specific to?
The second question was DeAndre Hopkins. Now, the Jets are linked to Odell Beckham. Why are more teams not looking at DeAndre Hopkins, who's a much better player?
The Jets are likely out on DeAndre Hopkins, I would assume, because the capital they're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers in some way is going to impact how Joe Douglas tackles the draft. So if they have to give up a 2 this year and potentially a 3 for Hopkins and a future, you put yourself in a situation where you have a pick at 1 and then a pick 4 with a lot of veterans in this roster. You can't flood the talent with youth.
Go Mike Tannenbaum. Go Mike Tannenbaum.
Yeah.
Fuck everybody.
I'm just putting it from the perspective of Douglas of, hey, I invested a 10th overall pick in Garrett Wilson, a 2nd round pick in Mims, a 2nd round pick in Moore. I just gave Lazard $11 million. I would love it, Mike. I tweeted out if we would have got Fletcher Cox, what Vince Young said when the Eagles were insane. That I'm not going to say the term.
DT.
It's an S and then a T. Not going to go there, but.
Oh, ST. I see. Not dream, but super. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's the Fletcher Cox thing bothered me. I was away from my phone. This is a terrible day for me because this is the day where you just want to look at your phone all day. Things are happening. The Jets get Rodgers. I put out a couple tweets and I didn't look at my phone for 10 hours. I was busy with work, blah, blah, blah. Brutal. We're recording this at 11:45 at night. Brutal. We're fucking warriors. Now, you text me, you're like, dude, the Jets were in on Cox. I'm like, Fletcher Cox, man? Really? It's the perfect fit for this scheme because he's that dude where he could pass rush and he could also defend the run. And
then he plays like 30% of snaps.
He'll play 26% of the snaps and it's fine. And he got less money than Sheldon Rankins, but
the rotation.
God damn, man, that would have been a good spot. But if the Jets are going to make a splash, you're clearly trying to do something. They're going to try to sign an offensive lineman or a high-tiered guy. If you're going all in, go all in. I'd much rather have DeAndre Hopkins than Odell Beckham. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have 2 torn ACLs. He was a more productive receiver the last few years. That's the guy I'm going for. It's not been reported or rumored or anything, but I would hope the Jets do something like that.
Let's just start the rumor. Let's start the rumor.
Guy. Manifest it.
Let's start the rumor.
Come on.
I'll go look at his Instagram followers and see if he follows anyone in the New York area.
He follows Lisa Ann, and you're going to tweet out that she liked his picture.
I love it. All right,
so
Mike.
Stupid.
Very good. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks again for listening, Mike.
One more thing, Matt. One more thing.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have to go to sleep.
I'm so tired.
I don't give a shit. The Jets, thank you for staying up with me. I apologize for being late.
Mike wanted to record at 9:00.
I tried. What am I going to do?
Of course. Just don't hold me hostage.
I told you I'm not going to be home. The Jets have Aaron Rodgers. They have Aaron Rodgers. It's unbelievable. It's something that we never even thought.
Where am I going to buy? Where am I going to buy my jersey from? China. For $19.99.
Oh, what a time.
I love it. All right, Mike. Good app. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, buddy.